Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Path of Exile Skills. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Path of Exile skill that I've had a lot of fun with, and I think a lot of people, once they actually learn how to use it, have had a lot of fun with, and that is the beautiful Resonating Shield. It makes a nice drum beat that you can beat. Gonna move your feet and tell you deep. Got that drum beat coming, okay. Gonna hit it and a beat it and a hit smack do. Gonna punch you right in your daggum poo. Sorry, I can't help but sing when I'm playing with Resonating Shield. It's got a nice beat. It's like a metronome. Now, Resonating Shield is an interesting skill. It's actually really useful, and we're going to go over it together and we're going to talk about it. So Resonating Shield is an AoE melee sustained physical and channeling ability, and it allows you to dish out damage and move at the same time, which is very unique in Path of Exile 2. There's not a lot of abilities that allow you to dish out damage and move simultaneously, as well as keep your shield raised and block stuff as well, which is also kind of nutty. It does have a mana cost per second, which is actually kind of a lie because it's a mana cost per attack, which is not the same thing as mana cost per second, and attack speed can basically modify that. As you can see here, it says modifiers to attack speed also affect the skill's cost, because of course if you attack faster, then you're using the ability faster and costing more mana faster and blah blah blah. So more attack speed means more mana cost per second, essentially, which is silly because it's actually mana cost per drum beat, and the faster you beat your drum, the faster you burn mana. It is a repeatedly hammer your shield with your weapon, causing damage in shockwaves in the area around you. Enemies hit by the shockwave lose armor for a duration, and while channeling Resonating Shield, your shield is raised, and you will block all incoming blockable hits. Hits break 2,396 armor, which is a pretty high amount of armor, and it has 170 to 250 base offhand physical damage. However, it also scales damage based on the armor on your shield. So if your armor on your shield is really high, then you get some really high numbers. My shield, for instance, on this particular character is 1847. So let's run the math on that, and let's see how much damage we're getting from our 1847 shield. So if we divide that by 15, we get 123.11, and then we multiply that by 7, we get a total damage of 861.93 on our top end, plus, of course, the 256 base, which means we're at 1,117 for our total physical damage for this skill. It's pretty OP. It cannot be empowered by War Cries, which is a poopy, but it can be empowered by Fortifying Cry, which is a War Cry. Don't ask me. It does say it can't be powered by War Cries, but it does get powered by Fortifying Cry, because Fortifying Cry powers any skill which is a shield skill, and doesn't. It's complicated, but it does work. Trust me. It also breaks armor, 20% increased armor if you have the quality effect, and I'm not sure what the Gemling Legionnaire bonus is for Resonating Shield. Let's go take a look at the Gemling Legionnaire bonus real quick before we go forward. I have not actually taken a look at the Gemling Legionnaire bonus, and I'm kind of upset that I haven't, because it could be really good. So let's grab Resonating Shield, and let's put that on my bar real quick so I can see the bonus. And that is 100% increased stun threshold while chanting. I actually did look at this. It's really good. 100% increased stun threshold while chanting is a massive bonus for essentially any character that's trying not to fall down and get murdered, which is sort of an issue with this skill, but it also has to do with how I built the character. I could probably fix it if I really wanted to. I think I need to build more evasion, honestly. So Resonating Shield. It's a support ability. It's not really meant to be a main damage ability, at least as far as I can tell. It's really meant to break armor, is what its main goal is, and it's very good at breaking armor. In fact, it's so good at breaking armor that I have it currently set up to break armor in, quick succession, utilizing the Uruk Smelting, which gives me 5% increased physical damage up to 20% per monster that has broken armor, per time I break their armor. So I can easily break their armor 4 times quickly in succession and get 20% bonus physical damage to them. I'm also utilizing Stern's Ferocity, which gives me the Crush, which allows me to crush targets and get more negative physical resistance. And of course, I'm using Heft and Close Combat and Armor Explosion. Now, Armor Explosion is a really interesting one. It basically makes it so that whenever I break a monster's armor, I get an explosion, which allows me to essentially get a fire damage hit to the target, right? And this fire damage hit to the target happens every single time I break the monster's armor. Now, since my character is built specifically around breaking and unbreaking armor, I can get some pretty crazy damage bonuses popping in and out with this particular setup. It basically just involves me holding down the button, which is very fun, by the way, and just utilizing that extra damage that's being created. Let's go ahead and click on one of these boxes real quick, and we can utilize the box monsters. So in this particular case, you can see I break the monster's armor, they explode. I'm using Repulsion at the moment to pull. I got murdered. To pull that explosion, to pull that armor break, and when I pull that armor break, it gets reapplied in another explosion. So I'm essentially able to just keep popping their HP like over and over and over again by going back and forth between these mods. Now, as I break their armor, they get the 20% increased damage. Of course, I couldn't stand there because I was lit on fire. I wanted to show you the 20% increased damage on the monster before I killed him, which is not always easy to do when the monster is trying to kill you. But as you can see, Resonating Shield does actually work surprisingly well, despite the fact that my character sucks. The Resonating Shield allows you to break the armor. It allows you to dish out damage in armor explosions. It also allows you to move at the same time while you're dishing out this damage. And I'm not even really utilizing the other abilities. So if I were to utilize Fortifying Cry increases my damage quite a bit. This allows me to apply the explosions like per attack from Fortifying Cry with each one of the shield pulses, allowing me to get a large amount of pulse damage on top of everything. I currently have like 3 explosions going on at the moment between the Fortifying Cry, the Armor Break explosion, and also the Repulsion explosion, all going basically back to back. So utilizing them all together, you get a picture of how the character functions, and you start to see the amount of damage that I can put out and how many empowerments I can get via my bonus. So I currently have like 4 empowerments at the moment, and I can War Cry again in a second for more empowerments, and I can pretty much clear like most of the monsters with no problem. Now, Resonating Shield doesn't always have to be a damage ability. You can just utilize it to break armor. It actually breaks armor really well. The fact that you can move while you're breaking armor is just amazing. You also get the ability to block while you're breaking armor, which allows you to have somewhat of a defensive function. Now, the problem with the blocking while you're breaking the armor is that you can get heavy stunned. So do keep in mind that as you raise your shield, you can only get hit a certain number of times before eventually you will get knocked down, right? So even just having it up like this, you will start to build heavy stun gauge. If you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, basically where my HP bar is, you can see the heavy stun bar filling up, and it's only a small amount at the moment, but I have started building heavy stun. Now, when you release it, you can release that heavy stun from your character. Let's go ahead and activate this guy so we can get our butts kicked real quick, and I can see if I can show you what it looks like when I lose heavy stun completely. Well, okay, there you go. So I almost got heavy stunned, but I also died in the process, so regardless. Meanwhile, the easiest way to deal with this is just simply to don't keep your shield raised. Keeping moving is also very crucial with this particular ability. Like, it is a ability that allows you to move, so move. Like, don't stand still and get murdered with it. Like, it helps tremendously if you stay moving. Now, one of the problems with this, though, is that by default, it has a very slow move speed. Resonating Shield does lower your move speed rather tremendously while you're channeling it, and that penalty is kind of nasty. Now, I've countered this in a couple ways. So one way I tried to counter this was utilizing the Pathfinder Running Assault, which is, or not Running Assault, it's Relentless Pursuit. Or, no, which one is it? Yeah, it is Running Assault. 30% less movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. There's also some other things on the board that you can grab, like over here. You can utilize 5% reduced movement speed penalty while actively blocking, 10% reduced movement speed penalty while actively blocking, 10% reduced. Basically, all this does is it allows you to avoid the movement speed penalty to try and get your character back up to full speed so you can run around and actually utilize it. Now, obviously, this ability is designed around armor break. It is very good at breaking armor. So one of the things that you definitely want to do with this ability is you want to utilize things like damage versus broken enemies. 20% increased damage against enemies with fully broken armor. Enemies you fully armor break cannot regenerate. Enemies you fully break are maimed, which gives you 30% slower movement speed on them and reduced evasion rating. You also get things like 30% increased effectiveness of fully broken armor. So broken armor increases damage by a specific amount. And the more you break armor with this ability, the more buffs that you get like this, the more effective broken armor is at increasing your overall damage output. They're all over the board. There's ways that you can increase broken armor in various ways. You can also grab things like this, which make your broken armor work against fire damage. So fully broken armor you inflict also increases fire damage from hits, which essentially allows things like my armor explosion, which is fire damage, to function very well because I'm increasing the damage of the fire damage hits as well, right? And you can do this across the board. You can increase the damage of tons of things with armor break. You can also, of course, as I showed you, increase the physical damage that the monster takes every time their armor is broken. You can also make it so that they lose physical resistance as well. And all of this stuff ties together very nicely to make a very fun character. You can also get a lot of endurance charges by using Magma Barrier. So in this particular case, I'm using Fortifying Cry to beef up my shield ability because it allows me to get more explosions with my shield ability, right? Well, the thing is that as a shield ability, it is very effective with Magma Barrier, because Magma Barrier allows me to generate endurance charges that bypass the cooldown on Fortifying Cry, allowing me to make sure Fortifying Cry is up all the time. Also gives me more block chance and allows me to spray fire at enemies that attack me, which is also kind of cool. I'm not going to lie, the fire spraying at enemies that attack me is pretty hilarious. Overall, I think Resonating Shield works very well as both a main ability and also a support ability, just simply to break armor with. It's probably the best armor break ability in the game, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's so good that it breaks basically every single monster's armor almost instantaneously when it's set up properly, and on top of that, can be utilized to add explosions, support abilities. You can utilize it for specific things like reducing resistances, exposure, all sorts of crazy stuff. It's just a really good ability. In fact, I think if you utilize Resonating Shield in some of your setups, I think you'll find that you will absolutely love it. The only real main component of Resonating Shield that you have to make sure that you utilize is a high armor shield. Obviously, armor break is a lot of the times based on how much damage an ability does. All this one does have like its own specific armor break built in, but you can always add in more armor break. And if you add in more armor break into the occasion, you can basically set it up where Resonating Shield will break the armor instantaneously on essentially any target. And since it's AoE, it will break that on any target within range, which means that most of the time, all you have to do with Resonating Shield, if you're just using it as a support ability, is walk into a pack of monsters and tap like 1 or 2 times, and everything around you will be instantly broken. And then you can just do whatever you need to do after that point. It works surprisingly well with Shield Wall. It works surprisingly well with Fortifying Cry. It even works really well with Refutation as well, because you can add in the parry debuff to the monsters that you're attacking as well, which is really cool. So, like, as you go forward and you're messing around with, you know, like the blocking, well, every time you hold your shield up, you're blocking, right? And so Refutation allows you to apply a parry debuff to any monster that you're blocking, which is another 50% increased damage on any monster that is parried, that has a parry debuff, essentially, right? So, like, it all functions together really fun, and like, whether you're using it as a support ability, or whether you're using it as a main ability, or whether you're using it as your primary armor break, I find that it just works extremely well. Poor monster. Get wrecked. I didn't think there was anything left on the map. I was running around just trying to murder things. Let's talk about the supports real quick, what you would potentially use in it. So, if you're going to use it as an armor break ability, there are some specific supports that you can obviously use to enhance the armor breakness of it. Armor Break. So if we just type in armor, Armor Break 3 gives you a 20% chance to gain an endurance charge every single time you break armor, which means that your armor break ability can also be transformed into a way to gain endurance charges for your spamming of war cries, which is actually really effective. It also has break armor 20% of the physical damage dealt by the supported skill, which means that the resonating shield will break more armor than the original amount that it was intended. You can also utilize exploit weakness, which will cause it to consume armor break, if that's what you want to do. And that's actually really good as well, because even though it is designed to break armor, since it is an AOE attack that hits basically everything on the field, you can also use it to consume the armor break as well if you'd like to. Although I prefer using Repulsion to consume the armor break. You can also use some of the war cries and various other things. There's definitely a lot of ways that you can consume the armor break besides resonating shield. You can also get the armor explosion, which is really good with this. It's actually surprisingly good with resonating shield because it's so good at breaking armor. And you can also pull that armor break and then just put it right back on almost instantaneously. You can easily get multiple explosions with armor explosion, and you can do massive amounts of damage. Also, Armor Demolisher, which increases the amount of armor break that you deal, is also good with this. There's also a much better one that I showed you earlier. This is actually Armor Demolisher lineage support. So the lineage support allows you to fully break armor, causing targets to take permanently 5% more physical damage, up to a total of 20% if you're breaking back and forth. And it also includes the 70% more break. So you get the 70% more break and you get the additional physical bonus, which is really, really nice. You can also utilize things that Raised Shield works with. So Magma Barrier is one of them, but there's also a couple support gems that function with essentially raising your shield. I'm trying to remember which one. I think it's called Retaliate. Is that the one? No, that's not the one. Trying to remember exactly which one it is, but there's a really fun one where when you raise your shield, it just does damage to basically everything in front of you. That one also can potentially work with it, but it would only work when you raise the shield initially. There's also a lot of stun buildup tied with resonating shield too, so you could potentially set it up for stunning as well, which is pretty convenient. It does gain damage from weapons, so but only in a specific way. So it's not a weapon-based skill, and in fact, most of the damage that it gains is not from the weapon. However, if you take a look at my weapon and I take it off, you'll notice that the damage goes down by about 8,000 when I take off my weapon. And this is because I can still get some benefits that will help out the ability. If you take a look at this, I have things like elemental damage with attacks, and this is because elemental damage provided by things like rings or gloves does actually apply to the shield. So in this particular case, if I were to take off this ring, you notice I have 3,695 lightning damage, and when I take that off, the lightning damage does go down. So elemental damage with attacks does apply to elemental damage that you get from basically any source. And also applies to the shield. So things like this ring that have fizz, fire, and cold damage are applying all of those things to the shield. So elemental damage with attacks will help increase any elemental damage that you get that comes from rings or gloves or even some other sources that will then apply to the shield. You can also get +4 melee skills, of course, which is also going to give you more skill levels on your ability. You can clearly see when I take off the mace, I go down to 24 from 28. So Resonating Shield is definitely one of those abilities that you want more plus the skills on. And then gain as. So you can see here I have gain 18% of damage as extra lightning. And I also have gain 5% of extra damage of all elements, which means I'm getting 15% gain as there. So when you see me take off the weapon, one of the things you're going to notice is I'm going to lose that gain as lightning. I'm going to lose the gain as all elements. So my lightning is going to drop tremendously because a lot of the gain as is also applying to my shield. This is what you would call a shield buff stick, essentially. It's not set up for the physical damage because the physical damage on the weapon does not affect the shield, but it is set up specifically to enhance the shield skill. And in fact, if you were going to use any of the shield skills, this is the kind of weapon that you would want for a shield. In fact, two-handed versions of this are also really good, but you have to use the Giant's Blood, which does come with some pretty severe penalties. But you can get more plus the skills, and you can get more gain as, and you also get an extra socket too, which is also nice. So you get like a pretty good bonus for going with the plus 5, the big two-hander, but you also lose a lot from going with the two-hander as well. Like, for instance, your strength bonus gives you much less life, which is a pretty big hit to your life pool, and there's some other like simple problems. Overall, just a really fun ability, and there's a lot of fun ways that you could potentially utilize it to your advantage. I was actually thinking about another ability, a unique item specifically, that allows you to crit every single time you have an endurance charge. And you can build some crazy endurance charges with like shield skills. Between Magma Barrier, between the Armor Break bonus, where you basically build endurance charges from breaking armor, there's just a lot of fun ways that you can potentially utilize it to your advantage. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you are enjoying the content. And as always, keep watching.